Ouch, was that a ghost?
The following episode contains explicit content that some listeners may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ouch, was that a ghost?
Woodless?
And Lee. Happy holidays! Who's excited for Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and whatever the hell else people celebrate in December?
I would be if I did my Christmas shopping.
I finished mine. Well, I did finish, and then my 16-year-old brother decided to send me a whole list of new things that he wanted, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not one to get everything on the list. I get a few things on the list and then a bunch of gag gifts because it makes the gifts look bigger. But
I do the same thing. And my father got my son the funniest gift one time. It looked like it was like a lacrosse stick he really wanted and something else. And he like set it up so it looked, he had like a fake one first.
Yeah.
And it was really a Swiffer wrapped up. And then he kept the real one like hidden.
I would have died. Oh, poor thing. He was probably so upset.
He was like, really? Actually, my son is so sweet. Today, he surprised me, and he's the one that started the lighting company for all the houses.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran lights all in the front of my house and put a wreath up, and he just did all the outside lights.
Did he give you a discount?
He didn't charge me at all.
Oh, my gosh. So sweet. So sweet.
I sent you a picture. I don't know if
I
you
know.
looked.
I saw it. It looked really good. Yeah, it looked really good. I was like,
so
oh,
excited.
dang.
And then he got a timer for it, so I don't even have to worry about turning it on and off. It just happens.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I always thought they were, what is that called? When the sun goes down, it goes down. Like it stops.
Well, usually they're set on timers. You can have like solar ones, but those are kind of funny because they can run out in the middle of the night if you don't have enough sun and it has to be placed right. So
that's cool though, whole timer and everything. Wow, he did his best work for you, huh?
Yeah, that was so sweet.
Send him my way. Kidding.
I was so excited.
That was sweet.
But yeah, I love everything Christmas, the smells, the everything. I just hate shopping.
I love shopping. You're crazy.
Love shopping any other time during the year, but when the stores are this crowded, I don't enjoy myself.
That's why I literally started shopping in like September or October, and I literally just about done.
I shop,
Gianni, that's for sure.
And then I give the presents. Like I buy whatever, clothes, and I'll give it ahead of time. I'll buy gift cards, and I'll give them ahead of time. I have to wait until the last minute, or else I'm going to spend so much more because I can't help it. I like to see people happy. I like to give gifts. So every time I give it, I'm like, oh, I need another one. I got to get another one.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I gave Josh one of his gifts and Brennan two of them. But like, that's it. That's the only that's the only thing I'm doing. Everything else is staying wrapped and away.
Oh, I suck at that. But I do love the holiday season.
The holiday season.
And a lot of stores stay open 24 hours now. So you can go shopping in the middle of the night.
The fuck? Where are you shopping?
Kohl's and like...
Kohl's stays open 24 hours? No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No way. Who the hell is going to work at fucking 3 a.m. at a clothing store? No one's going to
They're always the nicest people because I always go to the same one. And they're the ladies, like I know them because I've been shopping there for years. And you'll just chit chat. They're shopping alongside you because they have nothing else to do, and it's just it's the nicest time.
Oh wow! All right.
Because on Amazon, it's great to do a lot of online shopping and all that stuff. But sometimes when you get certain things, it's not what you expected, or it will take too long. Or
that's true. I do like going in the store.
And like those throw blankets, whenever I order them online, they always have a funky smell, like plasticky.
Yeah, and sometimes I suck at reading measurements, so like I'll order a blanket and it'll come for a Barbie, and I'm like, fuck. So I do my blanket shopping at the store.
When the pandemic first hit and everyone was like, oh my gosh, toilet paper, I ordered this huge pack on Amazon, and then I got a message saying, oh, it's going to be delayed. So after the pandemic was basically over, like all that time went by, I received a package in the mail, and they were all about not dollhouse, but maybe like Barbie size toilet paper rolls, a huge pack. And I'm like, are you serious?
Wow. And what's funny is they were out of stock for so long. So how many other people did the same mistake? Yeah. That's awesome.
But I gave them away to other people to use for like their elf on the shelf and stuff.
There you go.
You know, I figured they can use it for something. But anyways. So
other than their ass.
They could, but they'd have to go through quite a few. So, the story I'm covering today is Moth Man.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you
I
know
know
about
nothing
Mothman?
about him.
Oh,
No.
okay. So this story was suggested by the amazing Timberly, who was one of our first followers. She's been with us since the beginning, and she sent us pictures to use alongside this. So I'll be posting those. I can't believe you've never heard of this. See, I'm gonna like summarize a lot of it because if I did this whole story, it would be a 3-parter.
Okay.
So on November 15th, 1966, two young couples, one of them being Roger and Linda Scarberry, the other one was Steve and Mary. They bolted from a local wooded area known as the TNT area. They reported seeing a 7 to 8 foot tall humanoid creature who had large red eyes.
So he
And he
looks like a fly.
Yeah, but 7 to 8, so basketball player size height, right? Red
Right.
eyes. And he had large wings with a 10-foot wingspan. It said the eyes are 2 inches in diameter and roughly 5 inches apart. A quote is, "It was like a man with wings."
Who measured that? Is what I'm wondering.
Well, they're just saying roughly.
No, not the measurements.
And they
Sorry.
recounted how it stood 3 times. So now you know it can fly and stand. And when they saw this, they sped off down the highway. They were going reportedly over 100 miles an hour, and the thing could keep up with it. But they said it was kind of klutzy too, and they eventually lost the creature. But then they were sitting around trying to rationalize, like, what just happened? That couldn't have been what I just saw. Like, I didn't see what I just saw, you know? So they decided to drive back to the TNT area where they originally saw it. And there in the middle of the road waiting for them was the same red eyes. And it wasn't flapping its wings or anything. It just flew straight up, but I don't know how to describe it, like a Superman style. You know
Is
what I
there
mean?
a movie on this guy? I don't know if you're telling the story so vividly that it's, giving me the perfect images in my head, or if I saw a movie.
There was a movie made about this, but I've never seen it.
Never mind. Now I'm picturing a guy flying up in regular clothing with a pumpkin head. So it's just my
No,
imagination.
that's not it at all. But he doesn't flap his wings. He just sort of raises them. And law enforcement was called and given a description, and a report was made, but nothing was found when the law enforcement went out looking in the area. That same night, a Mr. Partridge, he was a general contractor in the area, had his TV just going nuts. And he heard a high-pitched scream coming from outside, and it kept getting like higher and higher and higher until it just stopped. And his dog, Bandit, was outside, and he was just like kind of going nuts. So always trust your animal. So Mr.
Right.
Partridge shone a flashlight in the direction that Bandit was yelling at, and he saw.
Wait, is this a supposed true story?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you say it like that? Mm-hmm.
Because some people think it is, some people think it isn't.
Okay.
So Mr. Partridge shone the flashlight in that direction. Bandit was yelling at it, and he saw a human with red eyes and wings. The dog ran after the creature, and Mr. Partridge ran inside to get a weapon or something, but he ended up just being too freaked out, and he just stayed in there until the next day. And when he went outside again, he couldn't find his dog. But he read about a strange bird in the paper, and one article said that there was a dog on the side of the road. The Point Pleasant Register, which was a local newspaper, ran a story about Mothman, getting his name because one of the people that worked for the newspaper was a big Batman fan. So they were like, all right, well, let's name him Mothman. I'll read a quote from the article. It was, "It's a bird or something. It definitely wasn't a flying saucer."
Okay.
A press conference was held about the whole situation, and 5 men came forward and said that on November 12th, which was a few days prior to the two couples seeing the creature, they said that they were digging a grave in West Virginia, and they saw a large man-like flying creature that descended from the trees, and it flew over their heads into the night. And this was supposedly the first sighting. Like, this happened before the other people saw.
Okay.
And they claimed it sounded like a female screaming.
So he has the body of a fly and the voice of a woman. Got it.
Yes. And all these people started just coming forward with their own stories of sightings. There was as many as 100 sightings in the first year. The colors vary on the sightings, but they're all dark colors. It's like brown, black, gray. And some said the creature had fur, some said feather, some said skin, but shiny.
Are there
But
still sightings to this day?
yes, but I'll get into it at the end.
Okay, okay.
But it was at night and they were scared, and that could factor into your memory a little bit. But the
Right.
height and the wings were pretty much the same. But some people did describe him as not having a head, and that the eyes were directly on his body, like on his chest.
But if it's dark, I mean, you could see that, I guess.
Yeah. So it's said that before you even see the creature, this was a pretty common thing. Dread washed over you. And some people said their eyes bled after or were sore after seeing the creature.
That's creepy.
And some witnesses described his walk when he was on the ground as waddling.
And he
Now,
waddled away. Waddle, waddle. Till
now,
the very next day. Bum, 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 ba-da-da. I'm sorry, I just get excited.
I know, I don't know. I just lost my place. I'm singing that song in my head now. So now I said that there were a lot of reports, but they weren't all for Mothman. The majority of the calls were actually for UFOs in the area. The most sightings in the area were from the TNT area, which was where the two couples were at the beginning. And this is a large area, like hundreds of acres. It was an abandoned military munition site. This was used in World War II. So it's now a huge open area, except for the buildings, like the domes where the explosives were made and stored. So the town swarmed the location with weapons all ready to capture the creature. I'm picturing Shrek. Nothing was found, but it started a large part of Point Pleasant's culture. Some thought maybe the creature came from a nearby out-of-service nuclear plant. Some were speculating like maybe it was a secret government thing that got out. Since Mothman made his debut, he's been sighted across the country. Over the course of the next several years, other citizens were terrorized by sightings. John Keel became a big part of the investigation.
So law enforcement believed it.
Well, they got so many reports, you have to at least
look
think
into
it's
it.
something. Like if you're getting hundreds of people contacting you.
Well, I mean, once a story comes out, all of a sudden you get 1,000,001 tips of people who ain't seen shit but think they have.
But that's it too, is that, does that play a factor into it? Or did the people see what they saw? Or
True. Okay.
John Keel became a big part of the investigation, and he started investigating the case over the course of roughly a year. He spoke with about 100 people claiming to have seen the creature and UFO sightings. And this is not even taking into account all the mechanical issues that people were having. And there was a lot of poltergeist claims. That's what I mean. I can't get into everything in this because there's so much haunting and everything. And a lot of people claim to hear women screaming.
That's
so I'm just...
That's like so scary. It's like hearing a woman screech.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess it wouldn't be as scary if all you hear was, oh. Just a guy yelling, but...
Right? And then all the police are sitting there getting calls like, oh, I just saw the creature taking off, and oh, I just saw this hovering over my house. You know what I mean? There was just sightings like all over the place. There's so many. If you want to go on Reddit too, there's like so many accounts of, oh, my grandmother told me this firsthand. Like there's just so many. There's interviews if you go online of people, like old interviews for the news channels, and they would just tell about their experience.
Yeah.
But now we're going to get into the MIB. If you've never seen Will Smith's movie, The Men in Black, I'll give you a gist of their job. They're supposedly mysterious men who either wipe your memory or try to threaten you into silence if you witness something you're not supposed to. Their looks vary, but usually the black suit, the sunglasses, and they're said to not quite have human movements. Like they're trying, but they're not quite there. And they usually travel in 2s or 3s. And they carry strange devices, and then they vanish when they're done doing what they're doing or they're spotted. Like the way that the black-eyed children almost try to pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. Like you kind of question their species. Are they human? Like what are they? Some accounts of them say how like they'll go to a restaurant, but they don't quite know how to use the silverware. And then when they put the food in their mouth, they don't know how to chew. They'll just swallow like a piece of steak. Like they don't quite get it. So Mary Heyer was a local journalist who was put on the Mothman case. which was way different than her usual cases around town. Her column was called Where the Water Mingles, where she would report of any strange activities in the area. Her first related headline was Front Page News, published on November 16th. The headline was titled, Winged, Red-Eyed Things Chases Point Couple Across Countryside. So I have to read you a quote from this article, too. What stands 6 feet tall, has 2 wings, 2 red eyes, 6 inches apart, and glides along behind an automobile at 100 miles per hour? Don't know? Well, neither do 4 Point Pleasant residents who were chased by a weird man-like thing.
Okay.
Mary Heyer started working closely with John Neal, who he usually was out of New York, but he came down because he's a UFO researcher. And that was his original job when he came here, was to look into the UFOs. But this whole Moth Man thing just he started investigating both.
Right.
So they were both on the front lines. And in one weekend, Mary Heyer got as many as 500 calls from people who saw things like weird lights in the sky and just strange things, like either the creature or something malfunctioning. Mary Heyer one day reported that she was in her office in January of 1967. Her office was in the courthouse, and she was working late, and a man came into her office, and he was short, he had strange eyes, and thick black glasses that partially obstruct. And this haircut, this is what I'm trying to picture. That's why I kind of paused for a second. Squarely cut, long black hair. It said bowl-like.
Oh,
Can you picture that?
No, I don't even have anything to refer it to compare it to.
Like long black hair, squarely cut, bowl-like.
What the fuck does that mean? Squarely cut.
That's why I paused for a second. I was like, wait, I'm trying to picture this. So he spoke in a low voice, and he asked for directions to Welch West, Virginia, and talked kind of off. She described it as maybe he had a speech impediment. I was thinking like alien, but she felt super uneasy. He kept getting closer and closer to me, and his funny eyes were staring at me almost hypnotically. And she also claimed he didn't blink at all. And she recounts getting a phone call while the man was in the office. And she was talking on the phone, and the man picked up a pen and looked at it like completely amused. And then he just started laughing at the pen, and then he just left. Like he's not from here. And what is this?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
I've heard of these.
Humorous. And walks away. You're like, okay.
So a few weeks later, Mary was walking down the street, and she saw the same man with the square haircut, which we can all picture. He seemed to realize she recognized him, and he turned and he ran into a black car that drove by quickly. He just jumped in and took off. Men in black. Then there was Connie Carpenter, who was Mary Hines' niece. Connie reported seeing a massive hovering gray figure. After seeing this, her eyes seemed to develop something similar to photokeratitis. It's like a sunburn of your eye, and it's usually only caused by extreme UV rays. And that was just from looking up at the thing that was floating above her house. Mary Heyer later described how her niece was almost abducted. Someone tried to grab her. They ran up to her and they grabbed her arm, scratched her, and even ripped her shirt. She managed to get away. But a note was found later on her porch that said, "Remember, girl, I can still get you."
I'm still picturing the haircut. I'm trying to think.
I'm picturing a bad haircut by Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
In one of his movies.
Picturing Hulk when his hair was straightened in the first Hulk ever made. Is that what it looks like?
I think that's it. I think you nailed it. So on December 16th, 1967, now this is wintertime, almost Christmas, very cold weather, and there's a silver bridge that goes over the Ohio River, and it just collapsed out of nowhere. This resulted in the death of 46 people. This was during rush hour traffic. This was horrific.
That's why I hate bridges. It was a bridge, right?
Yep. And the 46 people died that day, and 2 bodies were never recovered. That same night, the Lilly family saw 12 lights floating between their house and the TNT area, like going back and forth.
Mhm.
That's not strange to you?
12 lights. Remember what we saw on the walking tour in Plymouth?
Oh my gosh, that
When
was
we
so
saw all those
weird.
lights like perfectly aligned and then they
Yeah,
just disappeared one by one.
that's how she described them, but they were going back and forth. They weren't just sitting there. They would like go there and then they'd go back and forth throughout the night of the bridge collapse. So rumors spread that the cause of the bridge collapsing was in fact the Moth Man, especially since after the bridge collapse, the sightings just halted.
He just needed to catch a couple bodies and then took off.
I guess.
Maybe he
So
was scared he'd get caught. All right.
another day while Mary was back in the office, this was during Christmas week, a short man.
Unless all of these sightings went away because people were distracted and forgot about the Mothman. And then all of a sudden they no longer saw him because it was all fake. All right, keep going. Just speculating.
Yeah. So another day while she was back in her office during Christmas week, a short man in a black suit, she described him as vaguely oriental. I don't know what that means. And he had an unidentifiable accent and long fingers. That's so gross. Long fingers.
That's like one of the first things I look at when I see a guy is his fingers. If you have gross fingers, they're weirdly long and I don't know. I like dirty hands. I don't like clean cut, perfect, long, clean
I don't know about
hands.
too
Ugh.
dirty.
I just like a working man.
Yeah.
Not a guy who sits behind a desk.
So long fingers, narrow eyes. And the man asked her, Mary, about UFO sightings in the area. And she was busy. So she was like, here's some articles if you want to look through them. Here's some clippings. And he was like, no, bring me to the area. And she was like, I am not bringing you to the area. And after a while, he just left. I'm glad she didn't go with him. But that very night, many others in the area claimed that someone fitting this exact description came to see several witnesses that have claimed to see UFOs or whatever they saw, lights. And everyone was made very uneasy by his visits. This is such a big thing. If you look into this, there's so many more things. I can't I tried to condense it as much as I could to make it into one story. But that man that went to visit her with the
is the Moth Man.
Oriental looking, he claimed to be a reporter from Cambridge, Ohio, but when the police stopped and did talk to him, he had no idea where Columbus was. And Columbus, if you don't know, is the capital of Ohio. And that was only like a few miles away. And if you're a news reporter, you kind of should know that.
Right. So he was the Mothman.
You solved it. You always solve everything.
I always do. I'm so good at this.
Zoinks. That's why. Between November 1966 and December 1967 were the most viewings, or most sightings. Linda Scarberry, one of the first witnesses, one of the two couples, described the men in black as dressed in black suits and hats, sunglasses, and black cars. And she said they looked kind of human, but they had kind of transparenty skin. Like you could see their veins right through their skin. And they had very long fingers. And at one point, one of them shook a man's hand in front of her, and they didn't quite know how to do it. Like they tried to shake the hand, but they were just, when someone goes in, but they're just kind of like off, like they don't know what like how to do it. And she claimed for a while after that first incident, they followed her around for a long time, like wherever she went, even to like drive-thrus.
What? And she didn't say anything? She was just like, oh, there are again. Yikes.
She just said that she didn't ever want to look back and make eye contact. Like she just felt weird. She just wanted to get away from them. There were also accounts around that time of phantom photographers. They would come with cameras and very bright flashes. So when a picture was taken and the flash went off, the person would kind of be stunned almost for a minute and try to like reset your eyes. You know how like if you go in from a really dark room to a light room, they would be like blinded for a second, but whenever they opened their eyes or got their composure back, the cameraman would be gone. In Ohio, 1967, a man came home from work and found a man dressed in black in his living room. He was average height. And when the homeowner went to switch on the light, the man that was standing in his living room snapped a picture of him. And the bright flash, same thing. It kind of stunned him for a minute. And the man just ran past the homeowner. And the homeowner said nothing was taken from my house. He just left.
So this was all because of the Mothman. They just People were breaking into homes and taking pictures of people, trying to
Well, it's
find the man.
people, I guess, assume that you don't know if it's like Men in Black style trying to erase your memory or if they're trying to like
Right,
scare you into not saying what you saw.
right.
There's a
Okay,
lot of theories. People have a lot of theories on what happened.
I
So
believe it.
some accounts are of black cars pulling up and they just set up tripods and cameras on the front lawns of people who said that they saw something.
Right. Don't be suspicious. Got
And they'll just like a huge
it.
flash will go off and then they'll just leave. They won't like talk to the homeowners, but basically saying like, I know where you live. I know who you are.
Well, all right.
The, the Moth
Me
Man has
too.
been spotted before many major disasters, like the Silver Bridge that I said. 5 days before the Twin Towers, some say that you can see him in a picture, and there were reports of him being there.
All right.
A few
Come on.
days prior to Chernobyl and prior to the Afghanistan wars.
All right. This is reaching. People are reaching.
So I think if you see him, bounce. So was Mothman the cause, or was he trying to warn people of disasters?
Ah, that's a good way to look at it.
People have different theories to what he is. Is he like a type of bird? I've seen some people bird. Why did I say it like that? Some people say a pelican, a heron, a pterodactyl, a winged human. Someone said a sandhill
Mm,
crane, which I think is pretty plausible. The
he's a
shape shifting.
fly.
He's a fly.
It turns into Clark Kent.
Yes, that's it exactly.
I
Or is
solved it
he just
again.
a person dressed up messing with people?
I mean, if people are seeing him in the sky, then probably not.
Ago, about 200 years before Mothman made his debut, in the late 1770s, there were 7 nations of Native Americans that formed a confederacy to stop colonists from impeding on their land. The Shawnee tribe being the most powerful, which was led by Sachem Tuga. Sorry, I'm probably saying that terribly. Or Chief Cornstalk was his like American name.
Okay, Chief Cornstalk.
At this time, the colonists were pushing their way west to do what colonists do. I'm summing it up a lot because I can't
Mm-hmm.
fit all this in there. A lot more happened, like I said. But basically, Chief Cornstalk was pushing for neutrality. He was like against being involved with anything with the American Revolutionary War. So
Right.
in 1777, Chief Cornstalk went to Fort Randolph in Virginia to try to make peace. But Cornstalk and 3 others were captured by the colonists. While in captivity, 2 Americans were ambushed nearby and 1 was killed. The corpse was brought back to where Cornstalk was being held, and some American soldiers, against their order of the superiors, broke in, and knowing damn well these captures had nothing to do with what happened. One of the captured Native Americans named Red Hawk tried to escape up a fireplace, and he was pulled back down the chimney and murdered. Cornstalk's son, who was one of the other captors, Elenipsico, was shot as he sat on a stool, and the jerks murdered his son, like really right in front of him. And
Oh.
remember, none of these guys did anything to provoke or anything, and they were all about peace. And the other captor, I couldn't find his name, was strangled to death. Cornstalk was then shot 8 times. What a way to go for like a man who was pushing for peace.
Mm-hmm.
And as Chief Cornstalk lay dying in his last breath, he said, this is a quote, I was the border man's friend. Many times I have saved him from harm. I never warred with you, but only protect for our wigwam and lands. I refused to join your pale-faced enemies with the redcoats. I came to the forts as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side, my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land. May it be blighted by nature, blighted by its hopes. May the strength of its people be paralyzed by the stain of our blood. It's said that the 3 corpses were then dumped into the river, but Cornstalk was buried in Point Pleasant by the fort, which is where all these things are happening. In 1840, they decided to move Cornstalk's grave, and again in 1950. I don't think that's a very good idea. But they moved what was left of the chief, which was 15 bone fragments and 3 teeth, which they put in a box and they reburied. Some believe Cornstalk's last words may have been what started the curse. West Virginia to this day has a lot of unexplained happenings and paranormal activity, specifically a part that was originally Virginia. But even back when the Native Americans considered the area haunted, they would see a whole bunch of apparitions, strange lights, and even stranger creatures. Athens County, Ohio, being the most haunted area in the state.
Mm.
While trying to erect a monument commemorating the lives lost in the 1774 battle at Point Pleasant, the night before the dedication, on July 21st. It was scheduled for the 22nd, but the night before the ceremony, lightning came out of the sky and damaged the crane that was supposed to place the monument. And after a month of repairs, the monument was placed until years later, lightning struck the monument again, damaging it badly. Now every year, a Mothman festival is held where they have all kinds of like contests and all that stuff. So the town seems to like embrace what happened. John Keel, who was one of the main investigators, believed that the Point Pleasant acts as like a window area.
So the town probably doesn't know the full story of the Mothman. Is probably just like following blindly like everyone else does.
So
another reason to party.
But that whole area, for such a small-ish area, it has a lot of disasters. I'm just going to count since 1907. In December 6th of 1907, it was the worst coal mine disaster in the world. Near Point Pleasant, 310 miners were killed. In 1944, 150 people were left for dead after a tornado came through. The bridge thing that I said in 1967, 46 people. In 1968, Piedmont Airlines had a plane crash and 35 perished. In 1970, Southern Airway DC had a crash that left 75 on the craft dead. In 1976, there was a woman, Harriet Sisk, who was being held at the Mason County Jail for the murder of her infant daughter when her husband broke into the jail with a suitcase that contained explosives, murdering his wife, himself, and 3 COs. In 1978, a freight train derailed near Point Pleasant, causing thousands of gallons of toxic chemicals to spill into the water supply, and the wells to this day are still unusable.
Why do people still live here? What the fuck?
In 1978, St. Mary's, which is like north of Point Pleasant, at the Willow Island power plant, construction was going on, and the scaffolding just collapsed, leaving 51 men dead. And this is not taking into account all the other floods, fires, and just odd happenings in the area.
Right.
John Keel, the investigator, did end up writing a book titled The Mothman Prophecies, where he offered the theory that maybe the Mothman was more of an omen. The book was made into a movie in 2002 starring Richard Gere, spreading the lore nationally. The town is now home to the world's only Mothman museum. Movies and statues are made of the Mothman. They have festivals, people dress up as the Mothman, and even open the TNT area, and they do like tours. And like I said, Timberly sent some amazing pictures of like the plaque that they made for him and the statues. And she said that the pictures don't do the eyes justice, but the pictures I have are beautiful. No one knows to this day who or what this monster is and if it's harmful or helpful, and sightings are way down. But in 2016, he made headlines again as a person driving through the area snapped a shot.
I thought you were going to say he was driving. All right.
That was in that area. But then in 2017, he seemed to have gone to Chicago, or maybe it's more than one of them, or maybe it's not him at all. But John Amitrano was at work doing security, and this is his quote. He said, "I saw a plane flying, but I also saw something moving really awkward under it." I'll just grab a few excerpts from his statement because it's really long. "This thing didn't have any fur or feathers, and it didn't fly like anything I've ever seen." Claiming that it was in like a strange one swoop motion, like up and down. He described the thing as having muscular legs and a human-like shape. 55 people in total in Chicago claimed to have seen a similar creature in that year. Some people described it as a big owl to a bat-like being with red eyes, or a gargoyle, or a Mothman. Some of the complaints were seeing the flying creature landing on top of their cars. And some of them said he was peeking in their windows.
Yikes.
So people have varied theories on him. Is he a demon? Is he a man with wings? A plane? Was he an alien? John Keel reports a lot of strange energy fields, orbs, men in black, the Cornstalk spirit. Was an angel trying to warn?
I didn't even think of that. An alien. Alien.
But he didn't know if maybe it's someone trying to warn and save people. But there was also, I don't like these theories because they kind of make sense. Was he a barn owl? It matches its wingspan, and its eyes almost seem to be on its torso. If you flash a flashlight at it or headlights, like they would reflect red, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And they can screech, like the women's sound. And then
Okay.
there's thunderbirds because the imagery resembles Mothman's description.
I don't even know what a thunderbird is.
I didn't finish Bridgewater Triangle. You'll know then.
Okay.
And it's the same thing, like the sounds can make, that's why they're called thunderbirds, because the way that their wings flap, it sounds like thunder. Or maybe was he a government experiment or mistake? He seemed to like that TNT area, the munitions dump, which also had a bunch of underground tunnels, probably for when it was in use in World War II. But a side note, that area used to be a bird sanctuary, so some people think maybe it's a mutant bird. That's what I want it to be. There's a sandhill crane. A sandhill crane can be as tall as a man. Not quite 10 foot, but almost. Not quite a 10-foot wingspan, but almost. It has like a 7-foot wingspan.
Mhm.
And it has red-colored circles around its eyes. So if you looked at it at night, a sandhill crane would look like Mothman. But they're not like really supposed to be in that area, but it's not impossible for one to get lost from its migration path. Was it all a prank that went too far? Gary Barker, who is known,
wasn't a prank.
he used to write about paranormal matters, but he did it all for he made money off of it, so they don't know. But I don't know how he could have done that in Chicago and everywhere. Or some say maybe it's a mob mentality situation or fault perception. Like eyewitness accounts suck. People sadly are inherently unreliable witnesses, and the power of suggestion is very strong. When others see something, you may try to see what they see without realizing it.
Mm-hmm. I believe it.
So what do you think he was? There's so much more to this story, and I know I probably didn't do it justice. I tried to include all the little pertinent facts, but there's so much more. All the poltergeist, the haunting, there's so much.
Well, now I just think it's alien. The second you say alien about anything, I just think alien.
I just think the Men in Black things are crazy, the way that they were popping up everywhere.
Just showed up, took a picture of it. I was like, what was said was said. There's nothing else to it. That's what I saw. I didn't see anything else. I mean, you're not going to scare me. I'm not going to see the guy again.
Pens are funny.
They can be. They definitely can be. I mean, I'm looking at one right now. It's all black.
And he took it, too. He just took off with it.
You gotta keep this, bring this up at the dinner table. Yeah.
Look at what I found today.
They're all just dying laughing. Like, why?
He brought it as a gag gift. For the friggin' I'm picturing the grab.
I think the curse is real when it comes to all these disasters, this, that, and the third. And then I think he's a separate entity. Not entity, but I think he's separate. I don't think he has to do anything with the curse.
But if you say Clark Kent, he's from another planet, so it would all fit. Why don't they just come to you to solve everything? It would be a lot easier.
I don't. The answers are right in front of us, guys. I don't know.
Complete side note, did you read Mortal Musings and your egg yolk farts and what they had to say about it?
I did. Didn't you see the gifts that I sent in return?
What did you send?
The pictures that I sent in return?
Oh, yeah.
I was cracking up.
He was like, I would never eat that shite. I love them. You guys should listen to Mortal Musings. They're fantastic. They're so funny. Well, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening.
If you have a story you'd like us to share, email us at ouchwasthataghost@yahoo.com.
Don't forget to follow our Facebook page, Ouch, Was That a Ghost?